share. Hello, this is UrbanDigs. Noah and John. We are back for another episode of Talking Manhattan. Today we got Jay Glazer, Corcoran, Mad Dog Glazer.
That's what they call me, Mad Dog Glazer.
Going back to college days.
Yeah,
okay.
For sure.
He does a ton of deals. How big is your team?
So my team is 3 people. We have 2 back-end, more administrative roles, and myself as the sole agent and quote rainmaker on the team.
Gotcha. So everything flows through you.
Correct.
On the team. Okay. So you see everything.
Correct. I have my hand in all of the pots. Right. Every single transaction is negotiated by me, is struck through me.
Gotcha.
All conversations with sellers, buyers, pretty much 99% of it flows through me.
Okay. So the next 15, 20 minutes, I want to tap into those insights.
Sure.
Okay. Sure. You've been in this business for how long now?
10 years.
Okay. So you know what's going on. You know what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, interestingly enough, we'll probably talk about this getting into a down cycle. I broke into the business October 2009.
Oh boy.
So, a month after Lehman Brothers collapsed and the world went to proverbial crap.
Right.
And so it's interesting to now kind of basically come full circle.
I mean, at least you didn't start in a market where you got spoiled.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is a really interesting topic because a lot of agents have, and either they're feeling the pain right now, or they're just entitled and don't understand that this business requires a lot of effort.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot more effort than I ever thought was involved in this business. And yeah, I mean, you got to do a good 50, 60 deals before you really kind of nail everything as an expert. But I want to tap into what's going on. What do you see right now?
It's a very trying real estate market right now. We are seeing the ultimate example of what what's his name, Gary Keller would call a shift. So we are seeing a marketplace where sellers' expectations are in one place and buyers' expectations are in a very different place.
Right.
And more pain has to happen for sellers in order for them to understand that the shift requires change. And buyers have to accept the fact that sellers aren't quite there yet. So even though I think there's opportunities for buyers, it's not like you can walk in and offer something absurd and expect to get it just because the seller's throwing up the white flag. Right. So there's a real disparity between where buyers are and where sellers are, and I think right now as brokers, the best of us are trying to bridge that gap.
Right.
I guess the question I would have is, when we talk about a trying market, usually that's in reference to the sell side because it's taking longer to sell things, prices are under pressure.
Correct.
But on the buy side, is there a sense of opportunity among today's buyers?
So I think, just to back up, you make a really, really good point. The framework of our industry is always through the lens of the seller, which is in some ways a terrible thing to do, right? It's a two-way street. I talk about in my own videos, in my own topics, that it takes 2 to tango, right? You need a buyer and you need a seller, and you need to put them together. So through the lens of buyers, there is opportunity. Through the lens of sellers, which is kind of how we frame our discussions, it's trying. It's however I framed it. For buyers, there is definitely opportunity. We are seeing transactions happen, agreements come into place that are, to me, as someone who's very active in the market and also has seen a lot, just kind of surprising. I mean, straight up, there's always this feeling of like, okay, listen, I mean, one thing brokers will probably never admit, and I'll admit it now, is like we have an opinion on our deals. This person might be overpaying a little. This person might be getting an amazing deal. We accepted an offer on the sell side recently, very recently, like last 48 hours, that I think the buyer, even though I'm not representing the buyer, is getting an unbelievable deal. Like, for the life of me, I can't understand why this home hasn't sold.
Right.
And of course, you could always blame the broker and our marketing efforts, which, for those of us who are good at our jobs, it's nonsense. We know that that's not really where the blame is.
Right.
And so there are opportunities. I think the thing with buyers, the problem with buyers, and I think New York City and more globally the real estate market, just as an economy, is that we generalize. So, if you find a seller who is genuinely motivated to sell, they've moved, they're getting a divorce, there's a death, there could be an amazing opportunity on that apartment. So you can really find those spots. I have a client bidding on a home right now that I think if they agree to the counter offer we have on the table, they would still get an amazing deal, and they won't even do it. The seller bought the property, new construction, in 2015, a nice project, boutique condo in Soho, for a penthouse apartment for 6.5, and now their counter offer is 5.85.
Wow!
And my buyers won't accept it.
Do you feel that the higher end sectors got hit differently than the lower end sectors?
Originally, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, any real estate prospector, speculator, economist will tell you that the higher end market is always the indicator, right? The higher end starts the effects, and it feels it first in a good way. Obviously, when the market is rebounding strongly, of course, when the new development boom hit and they're building these mega units, the developers benefited from that. So they built luxury product that was huge, and they got the benefits. Now I'm seeing very, very pedestrian, for New York City standards, priced homes not sell. To me, that has been the big change of 2018.
And this is what supports, so this days on market metric, basically what we're doing is we're looking at everything in contract, right? So we're looking at everything in contract and we're saying how long did it take you to go from day one to day one of contract, right? And that's days of market. And it's at 90. And the last time we were at this level, you're going back to 2012 right now. So we reverted 6 years.
It speaks for itself. And the problem with days on market is, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Is when you hit a certain threshold, because in New York City we're so ADD, we're so short levels of patience that if something's 90 days on the market, what's wrong with this property?
Right.
What am I missing about this property?
Right.
Versus historically, I don't know the facts of USA as a country, but I believe 6 months is just how long it takes oftentimes to sell a home.
Yeah, but Manhattan always operated a little
always,
different than outside.
always.
And I would say the days on market for Manhattan, like what's normal, I would say probably somewhere around 60.
Right,
actually.
I was going to say 45.
Yeah, well, I think 45 is what we hit when we were at the peak in 2014, 2015. And you're right that the high end, it gets hit first. It's leading, and it comes out first usually. But this 90 right now, again, I think this is the highest I recall it in a long time. And it's just very, very telling.
Yeah, well, this is the most liquid market of all the real estate markets in the country. This is by far the most liquid.
Yeah, that's true.
If you have a client, if you have a buyer
That's
client,
true.
how many open houses can you show them, or even appointments in one day? You could do 20 if you want.
Well, he said that he's going out for 6 hours later today.
Right, I'm actually taking a client right after this to 14 properties.
14 properties.
Versus going to one, drive another 20 minutes, go see another.
Sure.
See,
Yeah, we'll crank out a ton of properties. But also just the fact that we can see 14 properties, you could not see 14 properties in 2014.
Right.
You could not take
there
a
wasn't
buyer
that many options.
unless they're
Unless
looking
you bid on them already.
Right. Or you literally are looking from 168th Street to Financial District.
Right.
Which no one is. So
I totally agree with the gap. There's a bid, there's an ask, and there's a spread right now. And I don't know if a lot of brokers view it that way. It's great to talk to someone that views it that way. Is anyone wrong here, or we're just in that uncertain period?
Listen, I'd love to blame. I actually just had this conversation with a seller. I said, listen, it's been slow on your property. He said, we're not overpriced. I said, that's the problem. The framework is overpriced or not overpriced. It's not that his home is, quote, overpriced. It's just that the market has changed.
That's right.
Therefore, you have to compel buyers into action.
Right.
So you either acknowledge that it's not that you feel like you mispriced the home. There are plenty of overpriced properties where the comps and the analysis just do not substantiate the price for that home.
Right.
But there are homes that are well priced within the framework of their marketplace that aren't selling. To me, that is the ultimate indicator of a shifting market.
Right.
A home that says that by all logical definitions should move, that's not moving. So I had to explain that to my seller yesterday because he's like, well, we're not overpriced. I said, you're not overpriced, but you're not overpriced.
How many listings do you have right now?
I believe we have 8 or 9 active listings.
So that was one seller. What about your other sellers? How are they?
Yeah, listen, to be brutally honest, we had a call down, I think 2 weeks ago, with 4 sellers saying we need to reduce the price, I said, I'm going to go in there with a mission of try to get price amendments for every seller we have. And it's not, listen, the thing that everybody has to remember, especially on the sell side, is our interests are aligned. I want to get you top dollar, right? I want your loyalty. I want you to feel as if we did a great job. So me picking up the phone and calling someone saying we need a price drop, it's very easy for a seller to say, oh, well, you can just tell me that. Every broker's going to tell me that. But at the end of the day, that's not what I want. It's not like I want to be asking my clients to drop the price. Right. But at the same time, it becomes a question of, do you want to sell your home or don't you? It's becoming a second and third agent marketplace right now. For other agents who are listening, and
that's a great point. And I think one of the things that happens, and you mentioned 2014 and how it was impossible to see that many apartments. And I think it's the perception of the seller. So in a strong market like it was in 2014, sellers are kind of going off, well, the market's great, but it's even getting better.
Right.
So I want sort of future pricing on my apartments.
100%.
And buyers are constantly looking for spot prices.
Correct.
We've reversed. So right now, buyers thinking, hey, this market's weak, it's getting weaker, I want a discount. I'm pricing in future prices here where the sellers are like, just give me the market right this now. So the market's sort of constantly shifting. Right. And it's really a matter of getting to that seller, like you have to be at the market.
Right.
And I'm curious, how do you have that pricing conversation in a shifting market? That initial conversation. If you're the first agent, I suppose.
It's a tough conversation. Listen, I have fallen victim to mispricing homes.
Yeah.
You can look at the comp sometimes halfway, to Mexico and still be wrong. I think also. So I guess if there is a silver lining, it's the good news. You mentioned New York City is a liquid market. People are still buying homes and people are still selling homes. You can come on the market at a compelling price and sell in a week.
Right.
I got into two bidding wars this past 2-3 weeks
Representing
with buyers.
the buyers?
Of course, I'm on the
Right.
wrong side of the transaction. Like,
Right.
shoot me. I'm telling everybody the market's shifting. These two buyers are like, what the hell is going on?
Because every property is unique, and I mean,
Right.
it does exist.
But at least on one of the properties, I was a little surprised with one of them. But on the other one, I think they had 12 offers.
Right.
It was very compelling. The asking price was compelling. So the silver lining is, if you come on the market at a compelling price, it will move.
Right.
I'm part of a coaching program, and one of the kind of big philosophical lines that he started using over the last couple of years when he started picking up on the shift was, if it's not compelling, it's not selling.
Right.
So if you can compel someone with a really, really interesting price, you will get immediate traction. And then you end up defaulting to conventional bidding war auction mentality.
Right.
Because even though the market is shifting, we get so tunnel vision-y,
Right.
and buyers just default to conventional psychology, which is, I got to get this property,
Right.
That's right.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I mean, I think the sense of urgency is gone right now. So, I mean, we're the animalistic.
You have to create it.
It's just hard to, for some reason, sellers
Totally.
are not getting it, and that's why the percentages are much down in terms of those scenarios.
Right.
But I mean, look, the market does what the market wants to do when the market wants to do it, and it's all about the bids. It's all about those bids right now, and I feel like sellers are kind of chasing those bids down.
Big time.
And if you look at a slowdown, we peaked in 2014, 2015. We have come down. We've been down for a while now. I feel like we've kind of like stabilized, normalized. It's possible. I mean, you either go one of three places, right? You either stay down here, you go down again, or you go up and you bounce. I think right now we're actually in the process of having that another little tiny sneak down. So anyone buying right now, again, I agree with you. I think that they're actually, in 6-8 months from now when the numbers show it, I think they're going to be part that's populating that.
I think that a lot of buyers forget that this is a cyclical market, right? This is a cyclical business. And buyers forget that, like, you can't, so let's just, to go to the stock market. The worst advice you'll ever get is timing the stock market.
Right.
Don't time the real estate market. Remember that eventually 2014 will happen again, whether that's 2021, 2022, whatever year it starts happening again.
Right.
So if you buy now where there's clearly a softness and a dip, could you be 5% off bottom?
Right.
Sure, but who really gives it?
Right.
You're not just buying an asset, you're buying a home, so you're getting
Right.
utility out of it.
You're not trading it.
Well, that's another question. If I could back off prices for a second, I want to talk about being compelling, and
Right.
obviously price is central to that. But what about product? What does it mean to have a compelling product in this market?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the compelling product is essentially twofold. You either have a compelling price, so the product is secondary to the price, meaning if someone walks in and says, this makes sense financially, therefore I'm going to pull the trigger, or you just have a unique apartment. I think what's happening on Lower Fifth Avenue right now is really interesting. Lower Fifth Avenue is historically, obviously, the Gold Coast of downtown. Everybody wants to live there. Tons of celebrities, beautiful architecture. It's one of the blue chip foundational sections of New York City real estate, if not global real estate. But there's more inventory on Lower Fifth Avenue right now than I've ever seen in my career. And at the end of the day, all of those homes are good homes, right? They're all compelling homes. But the price isn't compelling because a buyer could walk door to door, literally, and say, there's a 2-bedroom, there's a 2-bedroom, there's a 2-bedroom, there's a 2-bedroom. So you have to compel people in that specific moment right now with price.
Yeah.
Right.
That being said, historically, there's only 1 or 2 options at a time on Lower Fifth Avenue, and that's why those units usually trade at a really high price per square foot.
Well, also a lot of those units are co-ops. A lot of them have high down payment requirements.
That's true.
Is that hampering buyers in any way?
I don't think in any unique way, as in 2014, 2015 till now, down payment has always been something someone is going to pay attention to. The buyer we're taking out is an Upper East Side buyer, and Upper East Side is probably, stereotypically the hardest area to purchase an apartment. Tougher boards, tougher liquidity requirements, tougher down payment requirements. And he's saying to me, there's so many options. Why would I bother buying a co-op that's 50% down,
Right.
unless the deal is so amazing. And then the
Right.
irony there is the co-op will turn down any amazing deal because they want to preserve pricing integrity.
Right.
Right.
So it's like it's a lose-lose situation.
Well, but it's also interesting, and if I could touch on one of the things you said, a lot of these buyers are looking on the Lower Fifth Avenue or Upper East Side buyers. I think that's another thing that's kind of rattling this market. Is an amazing shift in tastes and preferences of today's consumers. And once you had the people who only wanted to buy Upper Fifth Avenue,
Right.
Sutton Place, and now they're looking Highline, Chelsea, Lower Fifth
Right.
Avenue.
I mean, there's definitely been an uptick in neighborhoods. I mean,
Yeah.
right? You have Hudson Yards. I haven't sold there, but from what I hear, it's a very surprising mix of people who are moving there.
Mm-hmm.
And you definitely have. I mean, Highline has a crazy amount of inventory, and it's a wide ranging type of inventory. So people
Yeah.
are moving to new areas. Interestingly enough, our business is not like that. We
Right.
have buyers who are very committed to their neighborhoods. They're not explorers.
Right.
We work with a really, really hyper local clientele who knows exactly what they want.
Right.
So we had one client who went to see some really compelling deals on the High Line because there's so much inventory, and they just said to me, like, who wants to live on 28th Street? They just
Right.
couldn't wrap their heads around it.
Right.
But there are plenty of buyers who are. That's just not who we represent.
Right. This is great stuff. I want to just kind of end real quick here. And sellers, what would you tell sellers if you had to just shorten a quick piece of advice?
Sure.
What would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, first of all, ignore the comps, right? A comp from 4, 5, 6 months ago at this point is truly irrelevant. So you can use the comps just for some general framework, but at the end of the day, the comps are only going to tell you what happened, not what's going to happen
Right.
and what's happening. So price for the shift.
Right.
I would say, above all else, price for the shift. Price
Does
for
that
the
mean
future.
looking at what's competing active against you? Or
Not even, because if it's competing and it's not sold, then
Right.
something is not right there. I would say only competing in the sense that you're going to come in lower.
right.
But more just like taking the trend, right? So if we've dropped 5-10% in a specific micro market, pricing that 5-10% into your price.
Right.
And listen, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, all sellers are going to just absorb
Of
that
course,
and be like,
yeah.
sure, that makes sense.
Right.
It's a very challenging conversation to have.
Right.
But I think the sellers who are coming to terms with that, the sooner they do that, the quicker they're going to get
Okay,
their home
so
sold.
then I want to just touch on that really quick. Let's say I'm one of those sellers that do not want to do that. How long do you think that I should wait before considering that first price cut?
I think, another coach of mine once told me, he's like, once you are on the market, you're finally in a dialogue.
Right.
We could sit here and look at comps and talk numbers about a specific property, for days.
Mhm.
But until you know how the market has absorbed and saturated that apartment, you don't know if the price is right.
Of course.
So you have to really have pay attention. If you're
Right.
getting, I once sold an apartment. It was 2015, I believe. We were on the market 180 days, and the owner and I knew we were correctly priced.
Mhm.
I just knew it, and I would have advocated for a price drop on most of my listings after 180 days of market. But we stuck to the guns, and part of the reason we did that is because every week we had 2 to 3 showings.
Right.
And it was like, we're so close. Like, you
Right.
can feel that offer coming.
Right.
And finally, we got an offer. It was very close to ask. And then as we had that offer, we got an over-ask offer.
Right.
After 180 days on the market.
Well, sometimes you got to wait for that right buyer to actually wake up and say, "I'm today's the day I'm going to start looking."
Right.
Yeah.
So I just think that, you have to pay attention to what's happening with the specific list. There's
Right.
no set formula.
Gotcha.
It could be as quickly as 2 weeks. It could be 3 months.
Gotcha.
It could be never. If you feel like the feedback you're getting is just it's a perfect home. It's just not quite right for my buyer.
Gotcha.
That
And
type
every
of thing.
situation is unique.
Correct.
Buyers. What do you tell buyers?
Buy. I tell buyers if as long as you don't generalize the marketplace.
Right.
So we're working with a Williamsburg buyer right now, and their feedback is, well, Williamsburg stinks. The L train's shutting down. And I said, as a general rule of thumb, I agree with that statement, but everything is circumstantial and case by case.
Right.
Find a seller who's bought the apartment. They bought it for their kid, and the kid doesn't want to live there anymore,
Right.
and they're an out of town owner. And all they hear is the global news about the real estate market, so they're going to be more motivated to sell. Don't find Don't find the seller who's moving a block away and believes in Williamsburg.
Right.
They're going to be harder fought negotiators. So I think for buyers, pick your spots, but when you find your spot, go for it. Don't hesitate, because I
Right.
do think there's opportunity.
Excellent stuff. I agree. This is Noah and John. We are Talking Manhattan with Jay Glazer. We'll see you next time.